Joining me now is the deputy editor for all49ers.com, Jose Sanchez, to break down what is really kind of a surprising trip to the championship game from the 49ers. Hey, Jose, how are you?
I'm doing swell. How about yourself?
Good. You know, I think about Brock Purdy going from Mr. Irrelevant, now having, I believe, 7 straight wins, 2 playoff wins under his belt. Is this the ultimate kind of Cinderella story that just keeps going? A lot of people thought it might come to an end against the Cowboys, but no turnovers last week.
It feels like a Cinderella story, doesn't it? Who'd have ever thought, like, forget even the fact that he was Mr. Irrelevant, converted into now Mr. Irrelevant, a 7th round rookie who started off as the 3rd string backup. That's unheard of. And I can tell you myself, I thought this ship was ended the moment Jimmy Garoppolo got injured against the Miami Dolphins. It just doesn't happen. You don't have backup quarterbacks, especially rookie ones, who start off the year and just somehow not only manages the game well, but actually turns out to be an upgrade from the previous starter in Jimmy Garoppolo. So this is completely unheard of, complete Cinderella story. It's great to see what's going on because the 49ers offense, like I said, is being elevated now with him. Again, it's just unheard of things that are going on right now. And they had their first real test against a significant defense in the Cowboys. And yeah, now they got another one going against the Eagles. I feel like it's going to be the same type of look that Purdy's going to get from the Cowboys to the Eagles because they're both elite defenses, except the Eagles have a little bit, at least a better secondary. So against that, I think that's what it's going to be. The Cowboys kind of give him a nice little look. So that's going to be a huge, tough matchup for him and the Niners to go against.
Heading into the game against the Cowboys, you got the sense that maybe Dallas's defense could force Brock Purdy into making some of those rookie mistakes. If he's scrambling, struggling to kind of get out of the pocket, freestyle a little bit. We didn't really see that. I mean, we didn't see any turnovers. He picked up more than 200 yards. This Eagles defense, are they of the caliber that could potentially force him into some of those younger mistakes, make him look more like a rookie than he has looked?
Oh, yeah, certainly. When you're another elite defense, same thing. Like I say, the Cowboys, Eagles, and Niners are easily the top 3 best defenses in the league. And now it's pretty much down to the last 2, right? Between the Niners and the Eagles. But I'd say, yes, I can see more prone to his rookie mistakes, which, we haven't seen. I think he has several turnovers to date, but none of them have really been game tilting at all, has really diminished or held back the offense. It's crazy to see. That's another thing that's been unheard of to see from Brock Purdy is he's not turning the ball over, whether it's fumbles or throwing it to the other team. He's taking care of it. Now he's gotten lucky on a handful of them, whether it's been a penalty that's removed it or a defense just completely just bobbles the catch. But I think this is the one where we're gonna see at least one pick out of Purdy because it's on the road. It's a better secondary, and he already fought against the pass rush last week, and it kind of put him off his comfort zone. Even though he did play well, all things considered, he made several game-impacting plays against the Cowboys. But I think the fact that the Eagles have a more improved secondary, it's one that the Niners haven't seen, Purdy hasn't seen, that it's going to be hard for him to see open looks, and he might be pressing and maybe even does, because what he does, he loves to scramble out to his left specifically, and that's where it doesn't really hinder or give him to the best of his abilities. So I think that's what the Eagles are going to try to do, just force him going left and not right, which is where he's more prone to make bigger plays. And I think that's where it could see he might feel pressed, especially later on in the game. That's where I think it's going to really see his picks start to pick up like a 3rd or 4th quarter look.
How important is the matchup between the offensive and defensive lines with that in mind? I mean, protecting him is obviously going to be crucial. And when you look at the talent on both sides, I imagine that that's one of the X factors heading into the championship.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%, especially when you have the Eagles who have all-pro already in Hassan Reddick, and they have basically, I think, every defensive lineman who starts for them, whether it's Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, all of them, Hassan Reddick, they all are in top 5, top 10, and ESPN's pass rush win rate, I believe. So that's just phenomenal to have. You have pretty much 3 out of 4 of your linemen, and then you have backups or rotational players like a Brandon Graham, who was career high in sacks, Fletcher Cox, who's obviously just a mammoth in himself, and then Ndamukong Suh, who can give them 10, 15, 20 snaps a game. It's just this is going to be a mismatch for sure. That's going to be circled on. And the Niners kind of last week, Brock Purdy was pressured the most in any game he's seen this season. He was pretty much pressured on half of his snaps, 48.5% to be exact, and he was 3 of 10 or 3 of 12, somewhere around that range when he was pressured. So he's, get pressure to the quarterback more times than not, it's going to lead to good results for the defense. Mm-hmm. And I think, with the Niners, all they have really is all-pro Trent Williams. Outside of that, they just have a couple of other solid guys, and a couple other question marks that I think is going to lean towards the Eagles. And I think that's where it's going to lead to a Brock Purdy pick, whether it's in the middle of the game or the end of the game, that just he starts pressing because nothing's there and he's too busy scrambling. So I think the pressure is going to be there. I think the only thing that's good for Purdy is that at least he's got a nice warm up to it, where the Cowboys put him off his comfort zone, and now he's going to go into the Eagles and face them, and nothing should be too surprising in terms of, the pressure, because he's like, hey, you got that warm up, now here comes another good defense, better secondary. So mismatch a little bit like that. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan is going to try to get him off the pocket or try to establish run early to make the game slower for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like his decision-making ability might be tested as a rookie with all that pressure coming his way in a lopsided matchup between the trenches. Before we move on from Brock Purdy and talk about the run game, because that's you're nailing another really important kind of theme heading into the weekend. What does Purdy's success mean for Trey Lance?
Well, I think Trey Lance ship has sailed in terms of him being the indefinite starter. At the very least, it's going to be, it's going to happen no matter what, win or lose this game. It's already written. Brock Purdy's going to be the starter. There's no way I can't see there's going to be like, all right, Purdy, thanks for your service. Back to the backup, Trey Lance. It's like, no, at the very, very bottom feeding least, it's going to be a competition starting in OTAs. But ultimately, how I see it spanning out to be is OTAs is going to be like, all right, Purdy, 70% of the starting reps. And then they give like a third or a quarter to Trey Lance going into training camp. And then from there on out, it's going to pretty much be Purdy as the presumed starter until he really plays his way out of it, or Trey Lance, looks phenomenal, which I feel like is a stretch, especially coming off, a fairly significant injury that he did. Pretty much they compare it to the Dak Prescott injury that he suffered about a year or two ago. So I think pretty much this Purdy show. And then it's not that big of a deal. I don't think it's that so much diminishing on Lance, because this year in the NFL, a starting quarterback and a backup quarterback has been more valued than any other year. I think about, multiple teams have already gone down to the third string quarterback, and almost half the league has had their second string quarterback play. So, hey, this is a good problem to have. The day and age of saying when you have two quarterbacks, you have none is over with. I think when you have two quarterbacks, it means you actually will survive the season.
We'll see what happens this weekend, but you think regardless of the outcome, a divisional win over the Cowboys is enough to earn Brock Purdy that starting job?
Oh, for sure. And it's because of the way he's done this. It'd be one thing if he was winning games and just game managing like Jimmy Garoppolo level was doing. But the thing is, like when Jimmy Garoppolo went out, he came in and not only did he kept the hand on the steering wheel, but he's leading the ship. Garoppolo was not necessarily like a driving force for success. He was more so of another piece of the puzzle that helped the ship stay afloat. Whereas Purdy's literally almost manning the hatches. He's literally steering this team to success, the game-winning point. Look, you got Jimmy Garoppolo when he was a starting quarterback. I think they were averaging 24, 25 points a game. With Brock Purdy, they're averaging well over a touchdown now. That's you're averaging more than a touchdown with that says enough to me. And even without the stats, he passes the eye test. He can move. He doesn't get bothered by pressure. When the Cowboys are pressuring him hardcore last week, he still didn't get cracked under pressure in terms of the playoffs. And he was eventually able to deliver several key throws that drove a touchdown leading drive. It's just a game difference in terms of how he can play. He's easily been the 49ers' best quarterback under Kyle Shanahan, and I'd be hard pressed to figure that they're just going to be like, all right, back to second string to you, bud.
I'm surprised by his confidence, exactly to your point. He seems incredibly confident with this stretch and what he's been able to do. Just last kind of future quarterback question before I move on. There were a lot of people speculating about the Niners when it comes to Tom Brady's future. Is this the end in Tampa? Does he want to go back to the Bay Area? How much of that sort of speculation have you heard out there in San Francisco? And is there a scenario in which you feel like Tom Brady might go out there and retire and I guess maybe potentially back up Brock Purdy? I can't see that happening, but what are your thoughts on Tom Brady, a potential return there?
Yeah, that got brought up going into that Seattle wildcard round, I believe. And since then, when Brock Purdy goes out there, it looked kind of rough for a stretch, but he finished it strong. And then especially after Dallas, I think that's dead in the water now. I think if anything, Brady's camp is going to be one that's going to hardcore push for San Francisco. Come on. And it's like, no, you can't move, Brady. You cannot move. We saw you against the pass rush and the Cowboys, and you were sailing balls and you couldn't move. We saw Brock Purdy against that same pass rush, and he was 3 times better than you at least. So I think it'd be foolish on the 49ers part. I get why they might entertain it because they probably I know they feel a ton of regret after the 2020 year when Brady wanted to come to the 49ers, and they said, nah, we'll keep your former backup of Jimmy Garoppolo. And then, Brady kind of goes on to win the Super Bowl while the 49ers didn't even make the playoffs. But this time it's like, no, we found gold in the last pick of the draft, and it's like there's no point. And we got Lance. We have options here. We have a future. And rookie contract especially makes it more entertaining. I mean, makes it more feasible to keep these guys, whether you're going to give, $20 million plus to Brady. It's like, it's not worth it. It's going to be more so pushed from his angle than the Niners angle. And I think there's no way they're going to even glance at him.
Yeah, I'm sure the ticket sales is attractive when you consider what Tom Brady might bring to the Bay Area from an organizational standpoint. But the luster of that can fade pretty quickly if, like you said, he's limited in mobility and doesn't have the arm strength that he used to have. You mentioned the run game and how Shanahan might really sort of use that early to try to diffuse the pressure on Brock Purdy. They went all in on acquiring Christian McCaffrey, and that has proven to be such a savvy kind of move. What's the latest with McCaffrey's health?
Yeah, so he missed practice. I saw again today, so that's 2 straight missed practices. I'd be a fool to say it's not at least a little bit concerning, right? You missed 2 practices. At this point, everything else is a walkthrough the rest of the week. It's only already just 2-3 days away. It's especially because the game against the Cowboys, you can definitely tell in that second half he wasn't full strength. It looked like he was like 75, 80, maybe even less. He just wasn't explosive. Everything was just straightforward. He was just running a straight line. He couldn't break anything. And even on the sidelines in the fourth quarter, that's why they pulled him towards at the end of the last drive or two. They pulled him out of the game. They put Elijah Mitchell in, who was also hurt his backup with the groin, missing practice for a second straight day. That's definitely a little bit concerning. I mean, even if it's just precautionary measure and it's just let's get him rest, let's get him fully healthy. I see no way. How is he going to be fully strong for Sunday? At the very least, he's probably going to be like 90, 80 around that range. So if you're not going to have the Eagles, probably aren't going to see the best of McCaffrey, who can run routes at the backfield or line up in the slot and run routes from there and just take one on a stretch run or an easy ISO run and take it for a nice 10, 20-yard gainer. They're going to have a little bit of easier matchup in that sense. And even if McCaffrey was fully healthy, it's kind of hard to see the 49ers offensive line run blocking wise really push that Eagles defensive line around, which the Eagles have been prone to give up some running plays. But so something about the 49ers, especially the last couple months with the running game, it's been, unless they face someone weaker than them, they haven't been really be able to click consistently. It's something weird. I feel like it's really when they operate, when it's like, all right, McCaffrey, and they give it to the backup where really they become an efficient running game. So, but either way, without him being full strength, that kind of is a little bit moot because you're not going to get the guy who's really going to ball out there without much care in the world of fearlessness, I would say.
Mm-hmm. All right. So before we let you go, Jose, I mean, I know you are working for all49ers.com, part of the SI.com network. So you cover the Niners very, very closely. But how do you expect this game to play out? I mean, do you think that the Niners have enough to contend with an Eagles team that for much of the year looked like the best team in the league?
Yeah, they definitely have enough to contend. I see this game going either way. I think I'm going to lean a little bit towards the Eagles winning this game. I think ultimately I'm going to side with the team that has the better quarterback. I mean, Brock Purdy has been perfect pretty much almost every game. And while I still wouldn't bet against him this game, it's such a fascinating matchup because both teams are so loaded. They're significantly better top to bottom roster than any of the teams in the AFC. It's just, the AFC has elite quarterbacks. But on this game, it's just, I think it's going to be the side that the fact that Hurts can actually throw deep and can run better than what the 49ers just saw last week against Dak Prescott. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I think the Niners are going to have the same game against Dallas, especially offensively. I think they're going to score around 19, 21 points, 23 points on the Eagles. But I think what really is going to happen is the Eagles are going to be able to put up 20 to 28 points. And ultimately it's going to come down to like a 23, 27 type of game where I think that's, like I said, I think a late game pick by Purdy because he's not going to be able to really find his comfort zone. I mean, I could be wrong because the Niners could always end up establishing the run game and making the Eagles really feel weakened by just, pounding the rock over and over again. But I'm just hard pressed to really go against the Eagles. I think it's the fact that they're especially at home in a hostile environment. I think they're going to have, I'm just giving them the slight edge. It can go either way, but they're a really talented team. It's slight edge for them, the Eagles winning.